This video is an introduction to APA style and APA citation. There are two basic editions that are being used right now. There's the 7th edition, which came out last October, the newest edition, and then the older edition, the 6th edition. Some faculty members are still using the 6th edition, while others have moved on to the 7th edition. It is up to them to use whatever version they would like, so always make sure that you know which version you're expected to produce your paper in, okay? So what is APA? APA stands for the American Psychological Association, and they're basically an association that creates guidelines and rules on how to write documentation or how to write essays or research articles. This is for professional publication, but many students also follow the same guidelines. This is normally used in a lot of the psychology, sociology, other behavioral sciences classes such as business. I know nursing students sometimes use it, and I've also seen some speech faculty prefer to use this method. So just always know that it's up to the professor, and depending on the class that you're taking, you may need to use APA as opposed to MLA or some other citation style. So when you're working on a research project, you are going to have your thoughts, your research question, what you know of your topic. And in addition to that, you're going to add research that you find from other sources. So as you start your own outline of how you're going to organize your thoughts, you are going to collect facts, statistics, times, events, even opinions. You could also use opinions, speeches, great quotes, different kinds of information about your topic or what you're trying to research. And then as you do this and you learn more about your research or the topic that you're researching, then your thoughts are going to change, and then you may alter your viewpoint based on the facts or the evidence that you find from your research. Then all of those things come together is to produce a research project. Most of the time, the research project is some type of essay like this, where you write your own research paper, where you have your cover sheet, and you have your introduction and your body paragraphs, and then at the end, you would list your sources or the sources that you used to support what you're saying. But this is going to be primarily your own ideas and what you know of your topic that you're researching. Then you're going to incorporate different sources or facts, etc., from different sources within the body of your essay that you're writing. But it's mostly supposed to be your own thoughts, your own contributions to the knowledge of this topic. So as you're quoting, you would organize your paper not so much on the different sources that you found, because a research paper, it is not a book report or a summary, right? So in other classes, like in high school or other types of assignments, you're supposed to, when you do a book report or an article report, that means that you work from one book, and then you just basically summarize what that book says. So a research project that's not what it is. A research project is you organize it based on the content and your thoughts and what it is that you're trying to say or prove. So as an example, back to my violent video games, after I have my own thoughts on violent video games and I learn more about violent video games and I pull out information from different sources, then I organize my thoughts. Okay, violent video games create children or create aggression in children? Or how does it affect in the schools the behavior of children? So then I could start off my introduction about, violent video games are this and this. Then I would organize my thoughts and my outline based on, okay, I'm going to talk about what different case studies have said, how it might affect the brain. I'll have another section for how it affects the brain, another one how it might affect the behavior, or another section on how it affects school performance or something like that. So then I would have my own thoughts of what I've learned, or my own contribution, or what I think I understand from reading these sources, and then I would cite my sources. So then I would say, oh, according to this particular article, it does this and this and this. It affects the brain in this way. It affects the amygdala. It does this. So then I would add my own thoughts and contribution to what I think that means. Then I would move on to my next concept within my outline. So more of this stuff you're going to cover in English classes, and I definitely encourage you to see one of our tutors on how to write essays and different kinds of essays, because that is beyond this class. So steps to the research and proper citation. So the very first thing you do is you research and you find the work that you want to cite, or the works that you want to cite. Then you are going to review each of these sources and you identify the different ideas that you want to put in your paper. And a great suggestion is for you to write a sentence about those ideas in your own words. So basically you're just putting somebody else's idea in your own words. And the way you do that is you think about how they said it, and then you would think about how you would say that same concept using your own voice, the same way that you would communicate. Then you would create your references list for each of the sources that you get. And then you will start writing your essay. And then as you write your essay, whenever you get to a point where you have to put in the idea from a particular source, you're going to add it into your essay. And then you're going to also cite it within the essay. And you say, oh, in your essay, you'll say, oh, according to Dr. Jones, and then you would restate whatever they're saying. And if it's a direct quote and you're doing it in APA style, remember you have to include in parentheses the page number where you got that direct quote. In APA style, it also calls for you to add in the year of publication of your source. And you're going to repeat the same process all throughout for all of the sources that you incorporate into your paper. So now let's talk about the very last section where you're going to list all of your sources. Each citation needs to answer who created the source of information, whether it's a video or whether it's an article or whether it's a book, when it was published or when it was created, and then what is it, right? You're going to give the title of the article, or if it's a book, just the title of the book or the title of the video. And the last section is where to find it. Basically, where did you find it so that other people can find it too. And that is where you're going to list additional publication information. If it's a book, you're going to put in the publisher's name. And if you got that source from a database, you're going to add in the URL for the database of where you got it from. There are many different types of sources, and of course there are slightly different rules or suggestions as to what other elements you need to add into your reference or your citation. So for that, we'd have to use different resources to help you come up with your citation based on the type of source that you're using. This class, we're going to cover the most common cited sources in research papers, which would be books, ebooks, journal articles, magazine articles, newspaper articles, and websites. If you're new to APA, the best way to learn how to do this is by looking at examples. So I'm going to show you two different examples. One is the 7th edition research paper, which is presented on the left side of the screen. And on the right side of the screen is the 6th edition. I'm going to show you both because you never know when you're taking a class next semester, you may need to use either the 7th edition or the 6th edition, depending on what the professor asks for. So let's compare the two. APA calls for a title page. MLA doesn't. So this is what the title page looks like. On the right side, this is the 6th edition. So notice you have up here, right here, this is the running head. This is how you would need to format the running head for the title page in the 6th edition. this goes in the header of the document, and you would configure that using different tools. The next section is the page number. Every page in your essay would have a page number. I'm going to scroll down. See, here's the second page, and here's the page number for the second page, third page, and so on. Every single page would have that page number there. Now, I do want to point out a difference between the running head in the cover sheet. Notice it has in regular, it has the capital letter R, and then running head, and then a colon here. Then in all caps is the title of your research project. That is how you would format it in the first page. Now, let me go to the next page. Now I want to show you here that this running head looks a little different. It doesn't have the words running head right before it, because from the second, third, all the way to the end, you don't need to have running head listed right here. All you do is you just list just the title of your essay in all uppercase. And notice that here's the third page, the last page, all the way to the end, even including where you list your references. So that is one of the biggest differences between the 6th edition and the 7th edition. Now let's take a look at the 7th edition. We're still talking about the header up here, what goes on top. So we're talking about this section here. Notice here it doesn't have it. In the 7th edition, you do not have to worry about this part. You just leave it blank, and all you do is you just configure the page number. And here we go down. Here's the other page 2, page 3, which simplifies it for students. That's one aspect. Now let's go back to the cover sheet. So now that we talked about the running head and the lack thereof up here, but you still need to put the page number on the 7th edition. Now let's look at the title of your essay. The 6th edition calls for you to put a title after you skip maybe three lines down. Then here you're going to list the title of your essay. Make sure that the title is no more than 12 words long and that it means something, that you have a meaningful title that tells your audience what your essay is about. Then you would list your name and then the college that you're taking. And then, of course, some professors might want, their information, professor so-and-so, their class, the date, and all of that. All of this here depends on what the professor wants. And then right below that, we have here the author's note. So this section here is more for professional publications. I didn't see a lot of students needing to do this, but in some classes I did see that they had to put in there some information about who they were. Now let's go look at the rest of the title page, but for the 7th edition. Again, this here is what you skip, press the enter key 3 times, and you're still basically in the same general area as what you were over here. But then you're going to enter, after you put your title here, I want you to notice the difference between the 7th and the 6th. In the 6th version, you don't bolding. No bold. In the 7th edition, bold the title. But the same applies, no more than 12 words. Make it a meaningful title for your essay. Then here, after you enter the title for your essay and it's centered and it's bold, you're going to press the enter key and you're going to skip another line here. Here you don't skip the line, but here you do. You skip a line and then you put in your name. And then the department of, if you said psychology class, the Department of Psychology, and then you would put in the college name. Then you would add in there Psychology 101 or Psychology 92 or, Introduction to Psychology, whatever it is. And then here you put your professor's name and then the date. This section here varies depending on what your professor wants. So again, check with them to see what they need. I'm going to scroll down again on the 7th edition. Notice there's nothing else here. So this is what most papers are going to look like in the 7th edition, unless your professor wants something here at the bottom. And I also want to point out the date here. The date is month, day, and the year. And the date would be either when the project is due or when it was assigned or when you're working on it. Check with your professor to see if they have a particular preference. So that's it for the title sheet. Now let's scroll down to the 2nd page. So now the 6th edition, if you're taking a psychology class or sociology, it asks students to also come up with an abstract if you were doing your own little case study. So you would have a section here. You would center abstract, not bold or anything. Write out abstract, and then go to the next line and no indentation here. You would put in your abstract. This is what you summarize what your essay is, what your research essay is. And then you would come up with your own keywords. I saw that sometimes you have to use it in different classes that you take here at Southwest, but other teachers did not require this. So, but I'm just bringing it out just in case that is something that you run into in the future. Now, page 2 in the 7th edition doesn't call for an abstract and all of that. So most of them are going to look like this, unless your professor specifically calls or asks for it, or you may want to go in and just ask your professor what it is. So now I'm going to scroll down to the 3rd page. So in the 6th edition, the 6th edition, you would start off your essay on the 3rd page most of the time. You would here list again the title of your essay in the very first line, and you would center it. No bolding. Center it, write the title, and then you would start your first paragraph. Notice here there's an indentation, a paragraph indentation, where you would just press the tab key and you would indent that paragraph. And then here's your first paragraph. Then you would have your 2nd paragraph over here. I'm going to continue scrolling down, your 3rd. As you type your paper, I want you to notice how the student or whoever created this is citing their sources within the body of their essay. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's where they're using a transition word, and then here's the authors, and then here's a time period of when this article or whatever source from Underwood and Finlay did, and then here's their sentence. So then this right here is an idea from this source. And I know that this is not word for word what they said, because I don't see anything here in quotation marks, and I don't see a page number. But now I'm going to scroll down some more, and then here they're still talking about the source from Underwood and Finlay, but then here's when they start taking their words word for word. So here's where they have the quotation mark, and the quotation mark ends here. And then for this, they've added the page number where this quote is coming from. So that is how you're going to be citing your sources within your essay if you're writing a research paper. For my class, you would write maybe one sentence similar to this that helps you answer your research question. And you're going to do that continuously in your research paper. Again, not for my class, but in other research papers. And you just do that continuously until you get to the end. I do want to point out that this particular section has headings and subheadings. Go all the way to the bottom. So that depends on how your professor has arranged it. So then now we're to the last section. The last section is where you're going to list all of the sources that you used in your references list. In MLA, it's called works cited. In APA, is references. And notice here, this is not in bold. You just center the word references. And then here's where you're going to copy and paste your citations for each of your sources. And then you just don't copy and forget it. You're just going to, well, after you paste it, make sure that it's formatted properly and that there are no errors within the citation. And then after each citation, you press the enter key and then you paste the next ones. Notice here how the citation starts here with, here's the author's name, the year of publication, the title of the article, still the title of the article. Here's in italics the title of the journal or publication in which that came in. That's in italics. The rest is not. Then here's the volume, the issue, the page range of this article, and the DOI link for that source. But notice how the rest of the entry is indented under the main one where the citation starts. They all do the same thing. So then here's my next source, starts right here at the margin, but then the rest of the information just gets indented underneath it. That is called a hanging indent. Hanging indent. Or hanging indentation. And that's basically it for the 6th edition. Now let's take a look at the 7th edition. So then after the cover sheet, page 2, you have your page number here, and then you're going to list your title again, and it's going to be centered. But now let's compare it with the 6th edition. Okay, so then notice here in the 6th edition, you don't bold the title, but in the 7th edition, you do. So you center the title, you bold it, and that's one of the differences between the 2 editions. Then everything else should be the same. Then it's the same. You have your body paragraphs, your sections. If you're using any headings or subheadings, and again your citations. This part is pretty much the same from edition to edition, where you would list the author's last name, comma, space, and then the year of publication. And if it's a direct quote, you would put in the page number. You put P dot space and then the page number where you got it from, only if it's a quote. If it is not a quote and it is just a paraphrase, you don't have to put the page number as is listed here in this example. Here, this is a source that has 2 authors, comma, space, and then the year when that source was published. In both versions, and even in MLA, every time you cite a source, this is called citing a source within the body of your essay, or it's also called in-text citation or in-text documentation. This is basically where you're telling your reader that where you're getting this information from is not from your own idea or your own fact. It's not your own case study. It's somebody else's idea. So every time you do this within your essay, and you have to do it every time you find information from another source, if you don't cite the source, that you got it from, you're committing plagiarism, and that could have some consequences in it. So you cite everything that you find that it doesn't come from you, and something that is not common knowledge. Common knowledge you do not have to cite. The tricky thing is that many students don't know what is common knowledge and what is not common knowledge. So it's just safer to just go ahead and cite it if you're not sure. So anything that doesn't come from you and you found it somewhere else, you cite it right here. And for every time that you cite something at the very end, see here is Trankenberg or Ute. You're going to go to the references list, and then there should be an entry for each source that you cited. So this one, oh, here's Trankenberg, and there's Ute. And the same thing, it corresponds that if you have an entry in your references list, is because you are citing it somewhere within the body of your essay. And that works the same way, whether it's 7th edition or 6th edition in APA style, or even in MLA. Every time you cite a source within the body of your essay, there needs to be an entry where you're listing all of your sources. Okay, so now I'm going to scroll all the way up again, and I do want to address the title again, the title of your essay, the capitalization. I want to point out that you don't capitalize the shorter words like the and or the in, but you do capitalize all of the bigger words, any personal nouns or pronouns. One other thing I don't want to forget is, again, the headings and subheadings within your essay. So I'm looking at the 6th edition. I'm going to scroll down and notice that, the word here, abstract, is in regular print, nothing different, Times New Roman 12. I'm going to scroll down. The title, again, of your essay, which is listed on the first line of when your essay begins. Also, no bolding, is just centered, and your full title again. I'm going to scroll down. Many times you may need to organize your own essay using different types of headings and subheadings that you do put in bold. And if it's one of those major headings, it goes, you center it, and then you scroll down, and then you'll see some additional headings, subheadings. Here's an additional one. So these you need to decide with your professor what kind of headings and subheadings you need to use. And you can look at just different examples. And again, here's another subheading. So that really depends on the assignment. For some psychology, sociology classes, you may need to use these. Divide up your long paper, because many times you're writing a 10-page essay. Or for other classes, you don't have to worry about that, and all you do is just write a regular essay. So this is in the 6th edition. The 7th edition, the same. It's just that, again, the title is in bold, where you begin your essay on the 2nd page. Then you can scroll down and you can take a look to see that they're also using headings and subheadings. So the headings and the subheadings, these are in bold as well. So then just double check with your professor again on how to arrange these headings and subheadings, or even if you need them, because you may not even need them. And again, here, the conclusion and additional subheadings. So this video is to cover the main parts of an APA style research paper. I do have another video that shows you, this particular video shows you how to set up all of this configuration, how to set up the paper, how to format the paper, setting the margins, the font, and all of that. So take a look at that video as well. And later on, we're going to cover in more in-depth how to do this, the in-text citation, and how to break apart all of these citations, so that way you understand exactly what each of these things mean and what rules apply when.